Seems like this is kind of a forgotten virtue. Hey guys, it's me again, Douglas, and today I want to talk to you guys about courage. Did you know that God has called you to be strong and courageous? Probably the most famous verse on this topic is Joshua 1:9, where God is talking to Joshua, but I think it also applies to all of us. He says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Man, I don't know about you, but I think that is so cool. And I really think that courage is kind of it's a forgotten virtue. Like, it's a virtue that people don't really seem to care that much about anymore. Now, a virtue is something good, something you should do, something you should aspire to. And to be courageous means to do what is good even when it's scary, right? It's not the same as being foolish. It's not doing something you shouldn't do. Like, the fact that it's scary doesn't mean that you should do it. But there are some things that are scary and good. So right near my neighborhood, there's this pool. It's like a big public pool, but it's mostly people from my neighborhood who go to this pool. And I love going there in the summer and swimming. And they've got 2 diving boards. They've got one regular one, and they've got one really, really tall one. Now, at this pool, if you want to go swim in the deep end, then you need to take a swimming test. And I took that test kind of a long time ago, so I can go on the shallow side and I can go in the deep end. And the deep end, it kind of starts at like not that deep, but then over by the diving boards, it's really, really, really deep. And if you can swim in the deep end, then you get to use the regular diving board. But if you want to use the really tall diving board, then you need to be a certain height, and you need to also pass even more swim tests. Like the regular old swim test, you just got to go around the pool a couple of times, but with this one, you got to go around the pool like, I can't remember, it was like 5 or 6 times, and you got to like show that you can hold your breath for a long time, and then there were some other things I can't remember, but you got to take this other test. Well, I wanted to try the really, really high diving board. I wanted to try the high dive. And so I worked really hard, and I passed this test, and I was tall enough. And the lifeguard, I don't know, maybe he's in high school, maybe he's older than that, I'm not quite sure, but he was, he watched me do my test, and he said that I was okay. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go up and I'm going to jump off of this high dive. And the whole time he was like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I was like, "What? Why? Am I not allowed to do this? I thought I could do it if I passed the test and I was tall enough." He said, "Oh, no, you're tall enough and you passed the test, but it's really scary." And I was like, "Oh, is it like dangerous? Could I be seriously injured?" And he was like, "Well, you got to be careful climbing up the ladder, and you got to make sure you don't belly flop or that would hurt a lot. But no, it's not like dangerous exactly." And I was like, "Well, then I want to do it." And he was like, "Okay." And I start climbing this ladder, and it was very tall, and it was very scary. I could feel my little heart pumping. And like the whole time I'm climbing, he's just like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" He was like trying to convince me not to do this thing. It's not that it wasn't allowed, and it's not that it was dangerous. He was just like, it's going to be scary. And it was. Like, I was scared. I could feel my little heart pumping, and as I'm climbing, I'm just like getting higher and higher, and it seems like I'm so high in the air. And I kind of walk over to the edge of the diving board, and I kind of give a couple little bounces. And again, the lifeguard was like, "Last chance to turn around." And I was like, "Nope, I'm going to do this." And so I did. I jumped off the diving board, and I as I was jumping, I like plugged my nose, and I went feet first down into the water, and I went so deep. I went so deep that it kind of hurt my ears a little bit, but I went down, and my feet touched the bottom. I don't know how deep it is, but I went all the way down to the bottom, and my feet touched, and I pushed myself up, and I went back up to the top of the water, and it was so fun. It was so cool, and it was so scary. And when I got back to the surface, he was like, "Hey, good job, good for you, you did it." And what I was thinking was like, "No thanks to you, man." But it was thanks to him, because he helped me with the test, and he, gave me some pointers. Like, he's the one who told me to plug my nose when I jumped in, and it was some help. But I was pretty mad because he kept trying to tell me to give up. Not because it was dangerous, not because it was foolish, but because it was scary. And if I was being foolish or reckless, I could have made that high dive dangerous. That's one of the reasons why they do the test, because it's not nothing. But it wasn't a bad idea. It was just a scary idea. And it seems like there's so many people around us who are just like that lifeguard. And they're like, "Oh no, you better not do that. It could be scary." There's some stuff that is scary, but like really fun. Not foolish, but scary and fun, that we'd be missing out on if we just, always gave up if we got scared. And aside from just fun stuff, there is really, really important stuff that God wants us to do. There are important things that God wants for our lives that if we are too scared, we're just not going to do them. We're going to be missing out on what God has called us to if we just keep giving up because we're scared. And man, it's like in our own hearts, it's hard to overcome that sort of nagging feeling where it's like, this is scary, don't do it. You know, even after you've made sure that this is a wise decision, or at least not an unwise decision, you know what I mean? Like even after you have done the steps to make sure that this isn't foolish, it can still be scary. And there's still a voice inside that's like, don't do it, it's scary. And so we got to overcome that in our own hearts. But then it happens so much outside of us as well. There are so many people all around us who are like, don't do it. It's scary. Give up. And I don't know, man, but it seems like it wasn't always that way. I think it's always been that way since I've been alive, but I kind of, like, it seems like I'll read history or I'll hear older people talking, and it just sounds like courage used to be a bigger deal than it is now. It seems like nowadays, everything is about, like, avoiding scary situations. And again, I'm not saying that we should be foolish. We should not be foolish. But we have been called to be strong and courageous. And this is a virtue that's not just like, oh, some people are brave and some people aren't. No, like saying be strong and courageous, that's not something that you say to someone who is strong and courageous. That's what you say to someone who is weak and scared. You can't be courageous if you're not afraid. And it seems like we're more comfortable with people being weak and scared than we are with them being strong and courageous. But God says be strong and courageous. So I think that's what we're supposed to do. So that's my challenge to you guys today, is that you would be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. The life that God has called you to is going to be scary. You know, it might not be jumping off of high dives or things like that, but like, you know, talking to people about Jesus, that can be scary. Standing up for what's right, that's scary. Loving people even when they are unloving to you, that's scary. And though we are afraid and though we are weak, God has called us to be strong and courageous. And He can help us to do that. He can help us to be that. Our strength and our courage can and should come from Jesus Christ. Don't encourage people to be fearful. And don't let other people encourage you to be fearful. Yes, 100% be wise, but be strong and courageous. Hey guys, I hope you liked this video. And yeah, have you ever done something that was like super scary? You know, not something foolish, but something that was scary, but you're glad you did it? Or maybe it was something that was scary and you couldn't do it. You were too scared and then you kind of regretted it. Man, either way, whether it's something that you did even though it was scary or something that you didn't do because it was scary, those moments, they kind of follow us, right? Like we remember fondly those times where, you know, like I jumped off the high dive. I'm going to remember that for a long time. And we kind of are like haunted by those times where, you know, I didn't do that thing because it was scary. And what if I would have done that thing? How cool and how fun would that have been? How good would that have been if I did that scary thing? But I chickened out and now I just kind of have to live with that. All of us get scared sometimes. And sometimes that fear can be, you know, pointing us in the right direction. Be like, this is scary, don't do that, because truly it's a bad idea. But sometimes that fear can just get in the way of really good things. Be wise, but don't give in to fear. Be strong and courageous.